Hey, Anissa Coy here with Firehouse Education and this week's Ask Anissa video column. And this week I got a very lengthy email full of several questions and actually asking my and Michelle Blevins, the editor of R&R Magazine's opinion on a very difficult situation. So the gentleman that wrote me the letter is named Eric. First off, I want to thank you very much, Eric, for sending me in the email, because I know that probably wasn't really easy to do necessarily, but I really feel like it's kind of a lengthy email, but I really want you guys to stick with me here and let me read it to you and go over it, because this is a situation that I actually hear about a lot in our industry. And I think it's one that's very painful and can easily be avoided if you know the right steps to take. So let me read you Eric's email. So Eric said, Anissa and Michelle, I enjoy R&R and am appreciative of the contributions that you both make to the magazine and to the industry in general. I am not a full-on pro who earns a living in this industry, but I have some experience, knowledge, and I own a lot of equipment. I read R&R cover to cover each month. Thank you for that, Eric. I recently had a terrible experience with a Midwestern company that I hired to check out 2 pair of recording studio monitor loudspeakers. These are cream of the crop devices, with the 2 pair being worth nearly $10,000. They've been in a moldy environment, and though they didn't show obvious signs of mold, I didn't want to put them back in a known clean environment. So I thought that I'd have this company go through them for me. I have attended industry events at this company. I know one of the principals well, and I've had a full tour of their facilities, which keep expanding and now take up about a city block. They obviously make a lot of money and are quite busy doing what they do, so I assumed that they knew what they were doing and that I could entrust my valuable electronics to them. Well, but what ensued was a nightmare. They obviously had an inexperienced person working on my devices, as he caused major damage in multiple ways. He used a screwdriver to pry off the woofers, taking chunks out of the face of the oak baffles. A woofer dust cap was entirely pushed in. The vinyl cladding of 2 of the 4 loudspeaker baffles were peeling off in such a way as to appear as if they had been soaked in a liquid. We had placed protective polypropylene over the baffles so as to protect the protruding tweeters, but these employees ripped this tape off in such a way as to pull paint off of the oak cabinets. OEM hex screws had been replaced in one cabinet with regular Phillips screws. The woofers surrounds were ruined and more, and that's without even looking inside the 4 cabinets. The tweeters of these monitors protruded from the plane of the baffle and are ruined if their dust caps get pushed in. So imagine my horror when I picked up the monitors and they had been tightly wrapped in bubble wrap. Oh no, I thought, those tweeters are going to be pushed in and ruined, and luckily and unbelievably, they were not, but only by chance. Luckily, the 2 that I've checked out so far do pass audio, even though the woofers are trashed and need to be reconed. This is not as easy as it sounds, as the monitors, which many consider the best in the world, are highly tuned to the factory, and replacing or modifying parts throws everything off the specs, and the factory charges 4 figures to recalibrate them. I took photos of all the damages and sent them to the company along with a business-like letter. They ultimately accepted responsibility for some of the damages, but offered no accommodation or apology. None. For ruining a pair of $8,000 active loudspeakers that are rare and not even being made anymore, as well as a lesser but highly prized pair that were in pristine condition before being taken to this company. My 4 monitors are now absolutely trashed, and their value is basically nil. I can share these photos with you, which he did. Eric sent me the photos, and I appreciated that. Having read Michelle's recent article, I want to work there, and having so many of Anissa's videos that I have watched, which exude a quality mindset, I felt compelled to write to the both of you. We paid their bill both to keep the peace and to make them feel bad, but I wonder what you would both suggest should be or should have been done. A claim against their insurance would be logical, but my 20-plus year employee did not take photos of the devices before dropping them off at the business. So I'm afraid it would just turn into a peeing contest and a waste of time. As I mentioned at the top of this letter, I own a lot of pro equipment, including an Odorox machine. In hindsight, I wish I had just wiped them down with Botanical, which would have been a really good idea in hindsight. And put them in a room with the Odorox and an air mover and my HEPA 500 air scrubber, and called it good. But instead, to paraphrase Belushi's character in Animal House, I messed up. I trusted this company to do me right, and they did me oh so wrong. I can only wonder what they're doing to others people's property. Thank you so much for listening, for weighing in if appropriate, and for all that you do to raise the level of quality in the industry. Sincerely, Eric. Okay, I told you that was a long email, but I really appreciate you hanging in there and listening. I felt it was really important to read all of this to you. This is not the first time I've ever gotten an email like this. I actually hear stories like this often. So, first off, Eric, I'm super sorry for what you're going through, and it's really frustrating to me, and it's very upsetting that somebody in our industry would ever do things like that and not keep that bar high and just handle something that they don't know how to handle. Listen, the first thing I want to say here is there are times I call specialists in. There are times that I will call someone in. I use a lot of taxidermists. I will do a lot when it comes to artwork, where I'm going to use the conservatories and things, because I don't, some of it is just out of my realm of being comfortable to handle. And especially if it's a high value item, you know, don't be afraid to not handle something within your company if you just don't feel like it's within your capacity, or that maybe it just needs to go to a specialist because it would just be the right thing to do. So first off, if somebody's approaching you and your company to handle a high value item like this, make sure you know exactly how to handle it and make sure that these kind of items are well documented. So there are so many things here. First off, and Eric, please don't, I know I sent you a big email back already talking to you about this, so don't take this as I'm beating you up, but I'm just going to be real honest with you. Both companies here made huge mistakes by not photographing. So first off, Eric, before any of that equipment left your possession, I would have absolutely taken a ton of photos. In fact, if it's that high value, I would have done a video. I would have done a video of every aspect of that item and knowing exactly what kind of condition it was in, noting anything prior damages if it was there, indeed there. That would have been huge for you to be able to take back to that company once you got those items back and saw the condition they were in. The other thing is that company that you took it to, they messed up because they should have done the same thing. If I got a pair of speakers in or anything that was $10,000 in value that someone's asking me to handle for them, I'm going to take a video the second that gets put in my possession. In fact, one thing that I did at one point was I had a lady that brought some jewelry she wanted me to clean, and it was very several pieces or 10 grand a piece, just the single pieces. So there's probably $100,000 worth of jewelry there, and I videotaped everything. In fact, before she left and took everything out, I inventoried it via video while she was standing there. I made her stand there and acknowledge on film each of these pieces that I got. Okay. So that company didn't protect themselves by doing a video or photographs either. So both companies made a mistake there. The other thing is that I do want to commend you, Eric, for taking photographs afterward. Obviously, that's very important. Another thing, if you're going to go use a specialty contractor to do something like that for you, you have got to vet them. You have got to check them out. Please, please don't ever assume anything. I know companies that do millions of dollars a year, and I wouldn't trust them to handle bricks in my backyard, okay, let alone my precious belongings in my home. So that unfortunately doesn't really guarantee anything. What you need to do is vet them out. Go look at their testimonials, look at their reviews. What do the last 10 clients say about them that they handle restoration jobs for? In this industry, this is not a huge industry, guys. It's like our backyard's kind of small here when we're talking about contractors. So if you want to go use a contractor to do something specially for you, ask other contractors. Who else has used them? Who has maybe taken items to them, and who would they recommend that you do the same? So it's so important for you to vet these specialty contractors out. I don't care who they are. And I don't care if they are driving $60,000 Mercedes Sprinter vans in their vehicle, in their rigs, and I mean, for their company, and then they've got this huge office and you just see them everywhere. You think, oh, well, they're big, they must be making money. It's because they're making money doesn't mean they're doing good. Okay. Walmart makes a whole lot of money, and I don't consider Walmart a very good customer service place. Okay. So, anyway, if anybody's watching, I'm not like totally dissing Walmart here on this video. But anyway, you get my point. All right. So, check them out and vet them. The other thing is educate yourself. Even if you aren't going to be the one and you're not going to handle those speakers, Eric, and you're going to sub them out to somebody, get online and educate yourself. Call the manufacturer. Find out what that manufacturer recommends for the handling and the packing and the moving and the cleaning process of this item, because you need to know whether or not this other company is going to even be doing what the manufacturer recommends. So here's a for instance. Check that out before you take it to that company. Then once you take these speakers or drop them off, ask them, how do you plan on handling these? Can you share with me a little bit of the process that you're going to use to handle these items? Because when they tell you the process, if it isn't what you now know that the manufacturer recommends, right there should be a red flag to you. And you may want to reconsider leaving that high priced item with that company to handle for you. Okay. So guys, I know this is a really long video, but I really feel passionate about this topic, and it's so important for us to have some of these systems in place about videotaping, photographing, checking out manufacturer recommendations when we're handling. And it's not just cleaning a product. Remember, Eric talked about how these speakers needed to be retuned. The other thing is, how does the manufacturer recommend transporting and moving and storing, especially when it comes to musical instruments like guitars? They need to be at a certain humidity level when they're in storage. So there's things like that to know and understand. So whatever you do, educate yourself so you're well aware of how these other companies should be treating your items. And please, 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 if the only thing that you get from this video are these two things, I promise you will alleviate a lot of nightmares for you in this situation. One is take photographs before you leave your item and or video of the condition and any prior damages. And the second thing is be sure to vet out the company that you're using. All right. Oh, and the other thing I want to say is, that was very big of you, Eric, and I would not have recommended had you called me to do that. It was very big of you to pay this company. If this were me in that situation, I would not have paid a dime until I had some resolution over what had happened with these items. Now, I get, Eric, you were at a disadvantage because you didn't have pictures of how it was beforehand, but this company admitted to some of responsibility for those damages, and you should have been compensated on your bill for that, if maybe even not paying a bill at all. So anyway, that would have been something I would have definitely done as well. So, and you were right. If these were in my care, I would have cleaned myself. I would have deodorized them myself. I would have used probably a botanical, possibly HEPA vacuuming, and then I would have used an hydroxyl chamber with a HEPA 500 air scrubber, putting that in a chamber and running that for a day or two, depending on the circumstance. That's exactly what I would have done to handle that situation. All right. Well, Eric, I'm really sorry for all the pain and suffering that you went through, but I do hope that maybe you've learned from this. And I guess it's not a failure or a worthless situation if you learn from it and know that you'll never be here again. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for sending in your questions, everyone. You guys are so awesome. I've had so many emails lately and text messages, and I really do appreciate it. You be sure to send me your questions to Anisa@firehouseeducation.com, and I just might feature you on next week's Ask Anisa video column.